Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're taking you right into a really high-stakes moment in Washington.
Yeah.
Think Senate confirmation hearing.
Yeah, and not just any hearing. This is for the Attorney General. A huge role.
Exactly. The future of, well, law enforcement, justice. It feels like it's all on the line, playing out right there.
Right.
And we're going inside the questioning.
We've got the raw audio, essentially.
Right, we're drawing directly from that.
And our mission, really, is to pull out the key arguments for you. The big challenges, the principles being discussed about the Department of Justice, the rule of law itself.
And the integrity of these institutions.
It's all tangled together. This deep dive is kind of a shortcut, helping you understand how politics and justice interact at that top level.
Okay, so the hearing gets underway, formalities done, and then it really kicks off. Senator Cruz steps up.
Known for his pointed questions.
Definitely. And he starts by noting something he found, well, surprising. Democratic senators praising the rule of law.
And his angle was?
His angle was that this praise was kind of new. He claimed the rule of law had been, quote, absent for the past 8 years. He argued there was a consistent disregard of the rule of law from the DOJ during that time. Okay, let's unpack this.
Wow, starting strong. A consistent disregard. That's a heavy charge.
It is. And he didn't just leave it there. He provided a whole list of specific examples to back this up. Remember, these are the claims made in the hearing.
Right, crucial distinctions. So what was first on his list?
First up, Fast and Furious. That controversial ATF operation.
Ah, yes, where guns were allowed to walk into Mexico, supposedly to track cartels.
Exactly. Cruz claimed some of those guns ended up being used to murder Border Patrol agent Brian Terry. He also hit on the idea that the Attorney General at the time, Eric Holder, was found in contempt of Congress for not cooperating with the investigation.
And he tied that to the other senators.
Yeah, he claimed the Democratic members on the committee were just silent during all of that.
Okay, what else?
He moved on to the IRS, the alleged targeting scandal.
Right, involving groups applying for tax-exempt status?
Cruz's claim.
Yeah.
The IRS illegally targeted United States citizens for exercising their First Amendment views, basically for their political involvement.
And the DOJ's role in that, according to Cruz?
He argued the DOJ refused to fairly investigate, so they gave the job to a, quote, liberal partisan Democrat who donated thousands to President Obama and other Democrats.
So, stacking allegations here, disregard in one area, alleged bias in another.
Precisely. Then he brought up Operation Choke Point.
That was the initiative targeting certain financial transactions, wasn't it?
Yeah, and Cruz alleged the DOJ used it to target law-abiding citizens and legal businesses they just didn't agree with politically, pressuring banks, essentially.
Okay, so Fast and Furious, IRS, choke point. Quite a list already.
And he kept going. Shifted to immigration next. Big topic.
Always is.
He claimed the Obama Justice Department sent millions in taxpayer money to sanctuary cities, which he said were defying federal immigration law.
Funding defiance is the charge.
That's the claim. And also that the administration just refused to enforce federal immigration laws and even unilaterally rewrote them.
Rewrote the laws. That's a strong claim against executive power.
Very. He also threw in the claim that they released tens of thousands of criminal illegal aliens, including, his words, rapists and murderers, into the general population.
That's an explosive claim.
It is. And there was more. He mentioned the Iran ransom allegation that the DOJ signed off on paying nearly $2 billion to Iran, supposedly against federal law.
The pallets of cash incident, right?
That's the one people remember. Also claims the administration ignored and rewrote parts of Obamacare, contrary to the law's text.
So alleged executive overreach again.
Seems to be a theme. Then illegal recess appointments that the Supreme Court unanimously struck down.
Okay, that one's a matter of public record, the Supreme Court ruling.
Right. And finally releasing 5 Guantanamo terrorists without notifying Congress as required.
Whew. That is quite the indictment of the previous administration's DOJ, laid out point by point.
It really is. Just this long list painting a picture of, well, what Cruz saw as systemic problems.
And what's fascinating, is how weaving these specific instances together creates this broader narrative. It's not just about one case. It's presented as a pattern.
A pattern demanding a change in direction, presumably.
Exactly. That's the setup. It frames the whole purpose of the confirmation, potentially.
So after laying all that out, Cruz turns to the nominee, Senator Sessions.
Yeah.
Puts it to him directly.
The big question.
Yeah. He basically asks, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, right? So would it be okay for a Republican Attorney General to be equally partisan, to disregard the law, push a political agenda?
How do you answer that?
Well, Sessions was pretty clear. He said flat out, no, I do not believe that would be appropriate.
An unequivocal no.
Yes. And he didn't just dismiss Cruz's points either. He acknowledged some of the things Cruz mentioned were, quote, improper. He agreed they had a corrosive effect on public confidence.
So some validation of the concerns raised?
It seemed that way. He also stressed that the DOJ has this long bipartisan tradition of staying out of partisan politics.
Trying to appeal to that tradition.
Right. And he even said, look, if he thought a nominee, any nominee, would implement policies contrary to law, he'd vote against them, even if he actually agreed with the policies themselves.
That's a strong statement. Principle over policy preference.
It is. He wrapped it up by saying he was confident that he, Sessions, would follow the law faithfully and honestly, called it the first and most important obligation of the Attorney General.
And that really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? What does it mean for an AG to be faithful to the law, independent of politics? This exchange tries to establish that baseline, that trust.
But confirmation hearings aren't just about policy and legal philosophy, are they? They often get personal.
Oh, absolutely. Character attacks, past records dragged out. It's part of the territory.
And that's where things went next. Senator Cruz brought up an attempt by Senator Franken to, in Cruz's words, undermine your character and integrity, specifically about Sessions' record on civil rights cases.
Ah, the civil rights record. That had come up before in Sessions' career, hadn't it?
It had, and here's where, as you say, it gets really interesting. Cruz focused his counterattack not just on the substance, but on the source Senator Franken was apparently using.
Discredit the source, discredit the attack.
Seems like the strategy. The source was an op-ed by an attorney, Gerald Hurt. And Cruz pointed out that this same Mr. Hurt had testified against Sessions way back in 1986.
During a previous confirmation hearing, right, for a judgeship.
Correct. And Cruz highlighted that back then, in 86, Hurt was, quote, forced to recant his testimony just 2 days later.
Recant. Wow.
Yeah. Cruz read Hurt's own words from 86. I apologize for any inconvenience caused Mr. Sess or this committee by my prior testimony.
Oof. That's damaging context.
Cruz definitely thought so. He pointed out the irony of Senator Franken relying on someone who'd previously given, quote, false testimony before that very committee.
So the implication is, why trust him now?
Exactly. But Cruz didn't just attack the source. He also defended Sessions' actual involvement in those civil rights cases.
Because Franken's claim was that Sessions was uninvolved, right?
Right. Franken claimed Sessions wasn't really involved in several cases listed on his questionnaire. But Cruz pulled out Hurt's own 1986 testimony again.
The same testimony that was recanted? Or parts of it?
Well, Cruz quoted Hurt from 86 saying, I have needed Mr. Sess's help in those cases, and he has provided that help every step of the way. Sessions confirmed that part was correct.
Okay, so using the accuser's past words to counter the present accusation.
Seems like it. Cruz also noted Sessions had reported all 4 relevant cases in a supplement to the committee, something he suggested Franken hadn't mentioned.
Filling in the alleged gaps.
And then he read directly from Sessions' own written submission about his role in those cases, basically outlining that, like most U.S. attorneys, his role in non-criminal civil rights cases was supportive.
Supportive how?
Things like reviewing, supporting, co-signing complaints, and briefs filed by the main DOJ civil rights attorneys, providing assistance, guidance, having an open door, and for some specific cases, actually supervising the litigation and signing the pleadings himself.
So providing a detailed description of his involvement.
Yes, and Sessions confirmed that description was consistent with the testimony back in 1986.
It really shows you the dynamics, doesn't it? Character attacks are common, but the defense often involves not just facts, but also undermining the credibility of the attack itself, its strategy.
Absolutely. It connects to the bigger picture. How the record is presented, challenged, and defended is just as important as the record itself.
Yeah.
Okay, shifting gears a bit. The hearing then moved on to the integrity of 2 really key offices within the Department of Justice.
Which ones?
The Office of Legal Counsel, the OLC, and the Solicitor General's office.
Ah, the heavy hitters.
Yeah.
OLC provides the legal advice within the executive branch, and the SG argues the government's cases before the Supreme Court. Hugely important roles.
Crucial roles. And Senator Cruz argued that the OLC had become, his words, highly politicized over the last 8 years.
Politicized how?
He claimed it gave politically convenient rulings, cited things like recess appointments again, and executive amnesty on immigration.
So providing legal cover for controversial policies is the allegation.
That's the gist. He even pointed to an alleged early incident where Attorney General Holder supposedly overruled the OLC on a bill about D.C. representation. Cruz suggested this might have sent a signal early on that OLC opinions should be political, not purely legal.
That's a significant claim about the internal dynamics and the message it sends.
Yeah. If the OLC, the president's lawyer essentially, is seen as just a political tool, well, what are the consequences of that perception?
It's critical. It erodes the idea that the government is acting based on law rather than political will. If their own internal legal advice is seen as bent towards an agenda, it undermines everything. Public trust, stability in applying laws. It's a big deal.
So Cruz puts it to Sessions. What would he do as Attorney General to restore, quote, professionalism and fidelity to law to the OLC?
Back to that core theme of fidelity.
Exactly. Sessions' response was basically that taking shortcuts for short-term political gain by abusing the legal process,
Yeah.
it just doesn't make sense.
Long-term damage outweighs short-term wins.
That was his point. He said those actions are always in the long run be more damaging. He stressed the OLC needs someone mature, smart, experienced, who understands government and law and is principled and consistent. Said he'd do his best to make sure that happens.
So a commitment to finding the right personnel focused on principle.
Seemed to be the message. Then the focus shifted to the Solicitor General's office.
The government's lawyer before the Supreme Court.
Right. And Cruz claimed that office had also become, unfortunately, politicized.
And the evidence for that claim.
He pointed to what he called an unprecedented number of unanimous losses before the United States Supreme Court.
Unanimous losses, meaning even justices appointed by the same administration voted against the government's position.
That's what Cruz highlighted. He threw out some stats. Claimed Obama's DOJ won less than half its cases overall at the Supreme Court. Said it was the lowest presidential win rate since Harry Truman, way below the historical average of around 70%.
Less than half. That does sound low compared to 70%.
And he specifically noted that even Obama's own Supreme Court appointees reportedly voted against the DOJ frequently. He cited one example, a case where the government argued it could supervise the hiring and firing of clergy.
The ministerial exception case, Hosanna Tabor. That was a unanimous loss for the government, 9-0.
Right, so what does it really signal when the government's top lawyer keeps losing like that, especially unanimously?
Well, look, the SD's office sometimes takes tough cases, pushes legal boundaries. That's part of the job. But a string of unanimous losses, that suggests the arguments being made might be seen by the entire court across ideological lines as legally weak or perhaps stretching the law too far from established precedent. It raises questions about judgment, about whether the office is picking fights it can't win, possibly for political reasons rather than purely legal ones.
So the question to Sessions then became, what would he do to ensure the Solicitor General's office has integrity, that it's faithful to the law and not pushing, quote, extreme political positions?
How did he tackle that one?
He identified the root problem, in his view, as a desire to achieve a result sometimes that overrides the commitment to the law.
Getting the outcome you want becomes more important than following the legal process strictly.
That seems to be his diagnosis. He stressed the country will be stronger if we adhere to the law. Pretty straightforward.
And specifically about the SG's role.
He said the Solicitor General should not advocate to alter the meaning of words to advance an agenda. Call that an abuse of office.
Don't twist the law to fit the policy.
That's the message. He committed to finding an SG who is faithful to the Constitution, who serves under the Constitution, and doesn't think they can just rise above it and make it say what it wants it to say.
It really comes back again and again to that core tension, doesn't it? Political goals versus sticking strictly to the legal text. That commitment Sessions expressed upholding the law as written, not as desired. It's central to the whole debate about these high-level legal jobs.
So there you have it. We've kind of walked through this intense confirmation hearing piece by piece. We've seen the major challenges thrown down, the expectations set for the DOJ and its leadership.
Yeah, it really highlights how tangled up politics and the administration of justice can get, especially at this level.
It really does.
Which leaves us with something for you, the listener, to think about. Considering everything we've heard, these detailed claims of politicization on one side and these strong commitments to the rule of law on the other, how do you evaluate that balance? that tension between political goals and legal integrity inside our government institutions today.
And maybe what's our role as citizens in trying to figure out what true fidelity to the law looks like, especially now with so much information, so much noise, and such intense political division?
Something to mull over.